So you can go ahead.
Namaskar. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be interacting with Namrata today. Uh, Hi, Namrata.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you for
You
having me.
know, what really touched when I met Namrata first time was that, she deeply believed that today the way corporates run, they are a grind for most employees and people who are working in them, and we need to do something about it so that this particular grind can be converted into a joyful journey. And that really connected me with her. And Namrata, welcome. She's the managing director with uh, Happiest Place to Work, that is Happiness Me. And we will start our conversation in a short while. Namrata, you would like to say something?
Thank you so much, Anurag, for having me here, and thank you for your kind words. And I think the respect is definitely mutual, because one of the things that really stayed with me when I met you for the first time was you were one of the few leaders who I've come across in my entire career who genuinely believes in the power of happiness, is not interested in employee happiness just from a lip service. And I think what really moved us was definitely the fact that you were not territorial about happiness. For you, it was not about just making your employees happy, but how you could take this entire message to the world of what happiness essentially can do for an organization. So thank you so much for your authenticity and your generosity of wanting to take this message across to others. As you know, Anurag is the managing director of Natural Remedies, which is definitely a happy place to work. And thank you so much, Anurag, once again for having me here.
Thank you. And just to remind you, I have redesignated myself as a consciousness gardener.
Yes, which is something that I wanted to actually ask you. I didn't get a chance to ask you all this while. That would you like to just tell us what does it really mean to you, and why have you added it to your designation?
Okay. So basically, what I have recognized as I have traveled my life journey, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, our job is like a gardener who cannot create anything but can facilitate the place in which everything thrives, flourishes, and we create an environment in which naturally people are able to grow and able to flourish in our environment. That's why I chose myself as a gardener,
Fantastic.
gardener for that matter.
That's interesting.
So, Namrata, we'll start. And let me first ask you this, because you must have worked with so many organizations. And while you work with so many places, what does your data and science tells us about how the joy can be unlocked?
Uh, I think, Anurag, to begin with, I would like to, talk about the fact that we've just been trained to believe and differentiate between workplace happiness, personal happiness. The reality is that we are humans first. We have the same head and heart which we have at home is what we carry into work. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury to take our home head and our home heart and leave it at home when we go into work. And while we are talking about head and heart and emotions, let's just look at it from a neuroscience perspective, right? Let's talk a little bit about our lizard brain and our emotions. um, the way our brain is structured, the most primitive part of our brain is referred to as the reptilian brain, right? What does the reptilian brain essentially do? It is responsible for the most basic and primary function of survival and safety. It's constantly scanning, what is safe, what is preferable, what is familiar versus what is unfamiliar, what is suspicious. Then you, of course, you have the limbic system where the emotions are attached, and then you have the neocortex system where all the rational thinking happens. And this is exactly where the fun starts, because while we like to believe that we are cognitive beings and we are very intellectual and we are very intelligent, the reality is that the way our brain is structured, we feel first, we act, and then we think. And that's because, emotions are processed faster than thoughts. Conscious thoughts take even longer. So the reality is that 95% of our behavior is driven by the subconscious parts of our brain. So today, what gives us joy? Is it the material things, that talk to our rational mind, that talk to our cognitive mind, or is it the things that satiate our emotional needs? And while we can try and intellectualize this and make this about data and make this about science, the reality is that all human beings just need to be heard, valued, loved, and respected. What we do from the minute we wake up till the time we go back to sleep is seek validation, right? We are constantly seeking validation. We are seeking validation from our family, our colleagues, our bosses, even strangers on the street. We are seeking validation from. So, while we can give really fancy names to what unlocks joy in an organization, like autonomy and appreciation and all of that, the reality is that it is just about acknowledging people, listening to people, making them feel appreciated. The problem is, at workplaces, what we do is we talk about recognition and then we try to make recognition a program, right? But we don't need to make it a program. If you make people believe that they are making a difference, they will make a difference. And if you look at it on a day to day basis, what are we really looking at? We are looking at kindness, we are looking at good words, we are looking at, looking for some empathy. Like, if I have to just give you an example of this morning, I went to the gym, and I go to the gym for the last 5 years regularly. I've not lost any weight, but I still go to the gym. I still show up, right? And this morning, I had one of the fittest people on the floor who walked up to me, and he told me that, your dedication and your consistency is really inspirational for people like us. And what that simple sentence did to me was, it suddenly made me feel 25 kgs lighter. It made me, my entire chest swell up with pride, and I walked out of the gym feeling 6 feet tall. So that essentially just means that, the way to motivate people, create happiness, create a conducive environment beyond a point, just goes back to the basics of empathy, kindness. Can we create an environment where our people feel appreciated, where they feel a sense of purpose, where they can be their authentic selves, where they can be respected, because respect is also something that we really thrive on, right? And what I firmly believe is, just like you can't clap your hands with just one hand, you need two hands to make the sound. Even to make the magic happen in an organization, you also need employees to work towards it, right? So while you are giving the kindness and the empathy and the appreciation, can employees also introspect, try and create awareness about what their own patterns are, what their own behavior is? Can they create acceptance? Can they then move into action to collectively, with the management of an organization, work towards creating a sustainable, happy culture?
Okay. Thanks for that sharing. Some of it was a little difficult for me because it came out from the science of neuroscience and something like that, but doesn't matter. Um, my how I look at it, in fact, I keep very often asking everybody around in my environment, and that is that is it is this happiness dependent on some kind words from somebody around you, some validation, some acknowledgement, or is it that you are now growing in a space where you are just uh, fulfilled within yourself and not seeking any appreciation or acknowledgement anywhere? So the question is, Is this joy within us, or are we dependent on outside environment or circumstances to feel joyful? So that's what my discovery is all about, and I want to continue to explore that space by which we find deeper answers.
In fact, Anurag, I've been wanting to get a better understanding from you that, you do speak so passionately about happiness and about joy. How have you actually approached this conversation of sparking joy within your organization? Can you give me some examples? Can you give me some anecdote to illustrate that? What has this journey really been for you internally with your people?
Yeah. So, when this particular thought that how do we empower people to feel good within themselves and not really dependent upon, while the external environment does play a role, but slowly we are trying to empower people in the manner that they recognize that I should not let my internal peace and joyfulness be disturbed by some people doing something inappropriate in and around me, which continues to happen all the time. And how do we then look at, having a control of our emotion within ourselves? So we kind of, try to bring in some concepts of empathetic listening, to concept of respond then react. So just absorb what you are not comfortable with, observe it for some time, see what impact it is able to have on yourself. And this ability to observe the internal disturbance which we all go through the moment something happens in our life which is not desirable or which is not wanted by us. We all go through the disturbance. So this power within ourselves to overcome that disturbance, in my opinion, is the critical ability which which we are trying to help everybody understand first intellectually, and then we recognize that, as you rightly explained, that before your brain even works, your body and your emotions already react to it. So
Absolutely.
once you call it reaction, you call it interaction, either which way, in my opinion, the moment we are encountering anything which is undesirable within our own environment, the emotions inside us, go for a toss, and we start feeling not so good inside. And if it is really too bad, then we start feeling horrible inside. So instead of feeling that this is caused by that event, or this is caused by some person or for some circumstances, we are trying to draw attention of people, saying it is happening inside us, it is happening inside you. So it is not that something else has created it, it's our creation. It's just that we don't have a control today on this creation, and therefore we are constantly blaming or holding our circumstances and environment responsible for not feeling so good, or even feeling good. As you said today morning, that gentleman put you on top by those words of appreciation. So even to me, even that is a bondage, because that words, if it are not heard, you start expecting it to others also to compliment in that fashion.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the trick is, right? The trick is to, you know be able to hold space for yourself in a manner where you appreciate what's coming to you, but you don't regret if it does not come to you. So it's finding that inner balance where it's fine if you get it, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world, right? An analogy I like to give is, we generally put our hand into a bag of chocolate and hope that our favorite flavor is still in there. But if it's not, it's fine. And I think once you manage to create that harmony within you, you do remain to a large extent undisturbed by what is essentially happening, and you start just treating everything that you get as a bonus. But Anurag, just to to just dig a little deeper into what you really said, I've always wondered that what's the secret sauce to actually making people sit up and listen to these conversations, because there's so much of cynicism around us, self transformation, right? Because people think that it's just gyan, it doesn't really work. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, it's a very complex reality, and I do understand that when you share these things, it comes across as gyan many times. But if you can convert in some kind of experience for people, like you asked me a live example, and just to give you a live example, one of uh, one of our person, when we introduced this concept of empathetic listening and asked people to consciously practice empathetic listening. So after the meeting here at the office, this gentleman goes home and had a very good feeling, saying that, yeah, let me practice it. And the small child comes to your father and says, Dad, this is what I have done, and things like that. So in the past, he recollected that being tired from the office and having a hard day, he would go home and would want a privacy for himself and nobody to disturb and things like that, and would shoo away the child, or be not really friendly. And but this time consciously, he bent down and started interacting with the child, and understanding. The child was so deeply moved by that, and the child went to the mother and said, Papa ko kuch ho gaya hai aaj. Something has happened to him. He seems to be in some phenomenal mood.
Hmm.
And that feedback kind of give us an example of how, when we are consciously providing some of these basic things to the environment in which we are living, especially to the family members and even to our colleagues,
Hmm.
it leaves them deeply satisfied, and we contribute to the well-being in the environment, because as a human being we are all here and doing our work and things like that. So for me, what I wish to add in this journey of professional work, or whatever we may call it, is to, can we add and contribute by our behavior to the well-being of the environment and joyful environment. And
Absolutely.
it's contagious as everybody starts practicing these skills. The whole environment becomes very lively. It becomes very friendly. People start you know looking forward, saying that, look, this is a place where I don't get behaviors which are rude, or which are self-centric. These behaviors are very friendly. So this is the kind of understanding I have, and that's why we built this whole environment of vision, values, and life skills, by which we all train ourselves consciously to practice these life skills, so that we can be a contributing member to the joyfulness in our society.
Absolutely. And Anurag, what you're talking about, empathetic listening, is so important because that actually is the crux of everything, right? Today, you could be in conflict with someone, but the reality is nobody wakes up in the morning and says that today I'm going to make Namrata's life miserable. If a person is acting out in a particular manner, there are causes and conditions. There is a situation. I think what empathetic listening really helps us do is put ourselves in their position to understand that they probably are going through some constraints, they have some problems. So just building this ability of being able to put yourself in another person's position actually brings in so much of peace and harmony, whether it's in your personal life or in your work life. And I think that that's really beautiful if it is being inculcated in a workplace, because I think that just solves so much of conflict resolution and just brings in so much of collaboration within teams. So it's really heartening to hear that you do believe in empathetic listening.
True. Um, you have some more thoughts to share?
I think in terms of workplace, if I had to really put into buckets, that what are the things that really ail and affect people, I think the two biggest evils I would like to call that is the fact that we are either wanting something, or we are complaining about something. So we can actually put our lives into two boxes, which is complaints, and which is and it is needs. And I very often get asked that, how do you overcome this, right? Because you're living, you have a beating heart, and you will need things, you will want things, and you will complain about things, right? You're not a log, you're not dead, that you're not going to work in these two things. And I think a lot of times I give a very short answer. Sometimes it's not very pleasant to hear it, but I think the answer to getting out of this entire vicious cycle of unhappiness, which is caused because of the amount we want, or we have the issues that we have, I think the short answer is to stop the self cherishing, the amount of importance that we give ourselves, and the view of self that we hold on to so tightly is what actually causes the agony. And I know that when I say this, it sounds very evolved, and it sounds very philosophical, and it sounds like you're talking about a very high end self actualization kind of a space, but it really isn't. If you were to just simplify it, Anurag, if I may ask you, when you're born, what's the first thing that you do?
I think when you're born, you cry.
Yes. Now, if you think about it, why do you cry? You're not crying for your mother who's in pain, or you're not
Hmm.
crying for the other child who has just been born. You're crying because you want something for yourself, right? You want to be changed, or you want to be fed. Either
Hmm.
you're hungry or you're wet. And I
Hmm.
think from the minute we are born, the cycle of inexhaustible needs start, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because the reality is, while we don't like to use the word selfish, but that is our innate raw nature. We are
Hmm.
born and with me in everything, right?
Hmm.
And it's the me that actually causes the problem. It is the sense of self that we hold on to that really causes the problem. If you were to look around, if you had to see anyone, however evolved they are or not they are, we constantly feel that the opposite person is the problem, I'm not the problem, right? If the world doesn't agree with me, or things don't happen according to what I want, it causes misery, it causes agony, it causes unhappiness. So somewhere this constant wanting happiness for oneself, and all the time wanting things for yourself, is actually the cause of misery, right? That is what is causing your misery. And today, even if I had to make it relevant from from a work perspective, today, having the need, wanting the need that you know I need a promotion, I need to be validated, it's just so much of I that really comes in. And I think happiness then becomes that one thing, the more you chase it, the more it kind of eludes you, right? So
Hmm.
you know the fact also remains that we need to turn the lens inward. We need to instead of saying what is the world doing to me, talk about what am I doing to the world, right? How do we build capacity to reflect and clean up our own small corners? And that genuinely comes by introspection, correct? Because the reality is, no one is intentionally trying to hurt us. how do we learn to get comfortable with discomfort, right? How do we start regulating our body, speech, and mind? And I think, where we are talking about, regulating body, speech, and mind, and when we are talking about, having a settled temperament, I am a big believer in the power of meditation. And I think that is something else that we kind of share in common. So since you are also such a believer in the power of meditation, how have you found this going within making a difference for you and the people, and at the people, and for all your employees and natural remedies? What are the other techniques that you would recommend? And you have to please share the secret sauce with us of how do you make people gravitate towards mindfulness.
Okay. Multiple questions.
Yes,
So great. So,
very greedy.
so first of all, let me, validate what you just now said. I think this trap of want and trap of complaint are the two major source of unhappiness in every human's life. And this trap is real because most of us do not recognize even that we are in this trap. We believe that staying with unlimited bottomless pit of wants and then having complaints from every other situation, people, circumstances around us is appears to be completely normal to us. And I recognize that this trap has to be broken, but this cannot be broken through intellect. You need to empower yourself with some other techniques which will help you to break this trap actually. So, talking about the power of meditation. So, what I realized is that as we are all in the trap of interaction or reactions, so we have only two kind of things happening to us. Either we want something which we like happening in and around us, or we have an aversion. We don't want something which is happening in and around us. Whether it is a boss, whether it is a spouse, whether it is children, we see both kinds of emotions um, coming out of us by the way they behave or by the way they act or do their things in life. And both are existing. So actually, what I see this trap saying that we are in a trap of either liking or disliking. So liking and disliking, till the time we do not recognize that this is originating inside us and it is not in the act of the person who's doing it. They may be doing the most horrible things or good things or whatever it is. Still, the liking and disliking is happening inside us. And the moment you're able to recognize this way of our creation, as you said, reptilian mind, and how we are all, accustomed to the survival mode in our life. So, this reaction actually was the part of our survival built up. But today, when life is not a threat and we are looking for joy and happiness in life, then probably it is important that we are able to grow out of this liking and disliking mode. That's my perspective. And as you start actually doing meditation, there are three components. The practice I have done, it come from Vipassana. And in this practice, you have Shila, Samadhi, and Pragya. So Shila, Samadhi, Pragya are three concepts which basically they help us practice, not just intellectually, but to practice. So the first part is the rules. The second part is your ability to observe anything very intensely without letting your mind go away. And they help us practice that by way of observing our breath. And the third part, which is pragya, that is achieved by observing our cellular body. You're all aware that we have trillions of cells.
Yes.
Now, these cells in our body actually determines the state of our happiness. If the cells are not feeling good, no matter whatever you wanted, you cannot feel good. And these cells are fluctuating based on how they are experiencing the environment. So, through this process of meditation, we are taught how to bring these cells into a very peaceful state. We call it the alpha state. And at that moment, your entire cellular body is in ecstasy. You are feeling damn good about it. And the beauty of this is that you can feel anytime good about it. Uh, there is no external dependence to feeling good.
Hmm.
You can sit in meditation and you can take your body system to that level where you are feeling extremely good inside. And then the word view, the way you look at the word, starts altering. So once in meditation, you start recognizing as to what is the nature of your creation, how you are reacting till now, and how you are in a trap, and how do I develop or build this capacity through meditation to make my cellular system feel good, and take the control of having to depend upon outside to feel good, somebody praising you, or you're buying something, or you're getting something, or you're winning some prize, or you're getting some promotion. So all those becomes irrelevant. You are good on your own to feel good as and when you want it. And uh, then from there you start driving the life in the direction you wish to take it forward. And the more insights you get through your meditation, the life will start unfolding to us in a manner never before. So, all that, whatever we have been able to do in the organization up till now, including vision, values, and life skills, I would say it is all the creation of the insights I got while I was going through my meditative exercises. And since I do it every day without fail, uh, I keep getting deeper and newer insights to how can I approach my life, and how can I be supportive to the lives around me in the manner that we can all live joyfully in this world.
And please correct me if I'm wrong. In fact, there's a question in the chat box also. I think it's Jay who's written that I would like to understand the reward from the perspective of dopamine and serotonin. Mindfulness or meditation does actually give you dopamine and serotonin, what you were talking about, every cell getting infused with joy, right?
Yeah, so I'm not really familiar with these words, but what I know is that we build a capacity through the practice of meditation to make ourselves feel damn good. You feel internally in ecstasy actually, and it could be dopamine, serotonin, or all other chemicals, but it's not the chemicals which actually is important. To me, what is vital is that power you have, or is it dependent externally by the circumstances? If
Absolutely.
you have that power, then you use it as and when you wish to use it, whenever you feel that you are out of control in your system. And if it is dependent upon external circumstances, whether you have to take it externally through words or through some other means, then I feel it is not in your control. So for me, what simply means more important is it in my command, or is it outside my command?
Fantastic. Um, and Jay, just to answer your question, I think dopamine, serotonin, or any other happy hormones that we sort of refer to, there are multiple ways of generating it, right? Like Anuragji has beautifully put it. Either you do it through meditation, you do it through exercise, you do it through creating this, remaining in an alpha state and an undisturbed state, or then, of course, there are multiple other ways of getting it, which are short lived. But when you create, you create internal resources, they're more sustainable. They take you through a much longer uh, duration rather than just a short-lived thing.
Wow. So that's very, very nice.
We've got an interesting other comment also, which is talking about how meditation also activates the entire autonomic nervous system, which induces the release of all feel-good hormones. So
Beautiful.
yes, so
That's
thank
thank
you,
you for
Karisma, for
that
validating.
addition.
Thank you for validating what I was saying with a little hesitation. Thank you for validating it for us.
Yeah. So to me, what I have learned is that this is not an intellectual, take. This is
Yeah,
not which you can learn through books or you can learn through listening or understanding.
yeah,
To me, it's a pure practice. And since I've been in this for last 12 years, I have seen myself growing and the ability to get into deep meditative state where the thoughts are not running here and there. Uh, it has taken me years of practice to basically reach that state. And I'm recognizing that in our whole education and upbringing system, this is something which is seriously lacking. We are all being provided with a lot of knowledge, a lot of zeal, enthusiasm to go and do well, win, uh, and in competition, we are all the time competing. But word cannot be a better place by competing. The word can only you can only create a win-lose situation by competing.
yeah,
If you really want to live a joyful life, then we have to learn to help everybody win around us, because that's when everybody feels good. And when everybody feels good, is that's where uh, the whole environment gets lifted up. Uh, I'm sorry, my light is gone, so it'll come
sure.
back in short
No
time.
problem. This just again validates impermanence. Things are constantly changing, and it's a
Right.
delusion to believe that you're in control of anything. So, yeah, and
Very true. Very true.
actually, while we have created such a big hava and baval out of meditation and mindfulness, what is actually meditation? You are actually sitting with yourself. You're turning inwards and you're spending time with yourself. And if you find it so difficult to spend time with yourself, how can you expect others to spend time with you, right? Because you have to make yourself pleasant enough for you to be able to spend time with yourself. And I think um, the kind of awareness that just closing your eyes for 5 minutes, and Anurag, while I have not had the privilege of going for Vipassana, um, I follow very simple mindfulness practices, and I try to inculcate it through my day. Because I have two boys and I have work and I go to the gym, I do multiple things. So instead of really tying myself down and saying that this is how I need to do it on the cushion, what I try to do is just start my day with closing my eyes and focusing on my breath for 15 minutes, and the magic that creates for me through the day is unbelievable. The power of just equalizing your thought and your breath for even a minute, even if you can get few glimpses of it through the day, it's really magical. And I really hope that one day I can actually go and do a Vipassana course and practice it as much as you do. But in the meantime, I'm trying to do my little bit in creating mindfulness for myself.
So, actually, while I completely agree and acknowledge that each person has his own way
Yeah,
of finding how you can meditate and bring peace into your head and concentrate. uh, I feel like, all of us have gone to the school to get educated. Now,
Yes.
if suppose tomorrow all of us see a plane flying, and we know that the plane can be flown, but if we ask our question, can you fly that plane? And the answer is no, because we haven't undergone a systematic training process to fly a plane.
Hmm.
Now, here we are talking about flying our life and flying our body. So, if
Of
we
course.
really want to get good out of our body, it is worthwhile to get into a very systematic uh, training process of how do you train your mind and body in the manner that you can then make best use of this creation which you have been handed over by the universe.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. It's we just have to sort of overcome the inertia in our mind
And to
to move.
me personally, because I haven't practiced many other forms of meditation or many other techniques of meditation, while I see there are lots of gurus providing various techniques, and I have no comments in terms of good or bad, however. But personally, I have been a practitioner of Vipassana meditation, and that's what really transformed my life and my way of looking at the world, and recognizing that everything is impermanent. And this is a very common saying in the organization, where people don't like it, but I still say it: ना कुछ लाए हो ना कुछ लेके जाओगे. So
Absolutely.
ultimately, what really matters is the moment of joy, full things you have spent in this journey of life. And if you can joyfully live this journey of life, I think we have made it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would we take any questions? There are some interesting comments that are coming. There's Shrikant who's saying investing time with yourself for inward looking is magical. If we are not enjoying it, certainly we are in bad company. Shrikant, bang on. Thank you, Anurag ji, for facilitating and supporting for our Vipassana journey.
Yeah. In fact, Shrikant is my colleague, and he's one of those colleagues of mine who have always related to the conversation we have in the organization in our journey of empowerment. And his contributions, with his thoughts, with his comments, is very immense, actually. We have a question here from Jay,
Yeah.
and Jay is seeking, please expand on the process of empathetic listening. So basically, Jay, uh, when we say empathetic listening, empathy means that you have an ability to feel what the other person is feeling. So we have used this word empathetic listening, is that not only we listen to the word of the person who's saying it, but we are also trying to feel the essence and the feeling the person is undergoing while the person is communicating to us. So it provides a holistic listening to us, which does not get entangled into words which the person is using, or every other technique has its own limitation. The words what the person is using and what it is conveying to you could have limitation. How you what do you call it, translate or listen to those words, because those words could mean differently to you. So therefore we believe that if you intensely try to understand what the person is trying to communicate, uh, in all possible manners, and that's how we have named it empathetic listening. You could give any other name to that. Do we have any more questions?
Uh, no, I don't think there are any more questions. We can wrap it. Should we just wrap?
So this is for you, Namrata.
Yes.
How do you listen, contemplate, and then act with thoughts?
I think with a lot of practice. So the ability to be to actually be able to step back, pause, and then react in a manner that has come from a certain amount of contemplation. I think it comes from with a lot of practice, and it is also going back to the conversation of mindfulness, because one of the you know key changes that mindfulness brings is it creates a lot of awareness within you about your own patterns, right? And today, if you see, our brain actually is a very lazy organ. It doesn't want to constantly think. So a lot of things that we do on a daily basis, those are based on certain patterns that got created when we were children, right? There are certain neural pathways that are created. We have certain ways of thinking. We have a worldview, and to be able to recognize that, your response in a particular situation is not the right response. It's more just based on what your mind is historically telling you. I think it comes with being able to create awareness about yourself and your patterns. It's not very tough. It's just a matter of turning the switch on, and telling yourself that, can we just step back, pause, and think about something, whether we and change our perspective, right? It's like a camera. If the lens is dirty, the picture is going to be dirty, but if you just clean the lens, the picture is beautiful. So can we clean the lens of our mind by creating awareness about ourselves, which can then help us respond with kindness and with skill rather than with anger and irritation.
Okay, interesting. Hmm.
I think, should we just, quickly kind of, summarize what has happened? Would you like to just share some of, what your key takeaway from this entire conversation has been, Anurag?
Yeah, so one of the questions which came up is how do you create an undisturbed mind in the face of adversity? Uh, as an entrepreneur, there are bad newses all day uh, coming to us because something or other is always falling apart in our environment. So, what I have learned is, that ability not to react to any situation which is coming to us. And I think this is what really uh, really came to me as a part of my practice, because during vipassana, when we sit in meditation, the body is aching, the pain is there, there's so much of discomfort at that time, and the teachers are telling you just observe, don't react to it, no liking, no disliking, no craving, no aversion. And we are practiced day in day out for that particular ability to just observe what is happening inside you when you are going through meditation. Now, same thing gets applied when you're going through those times. Just observe what is happening inside you, what that news or what that circumstances is causing havoc inside you. Just observe and don't react to that particular situation. And it takes a lot of practice and lots of guts, because at that time, uh, there is a huge uncomfortableness to do something about that particular situation you are in, but just to hold on and not let your natural instinct play and do some activity at that moment. So that holding on is extremely vital in my opinion. And once you allow that observation to happen, allow, observe, and not act, it actually goes away, it dissolves. You recognize that all that what is happening is temporary. And if a news has happened, it will come and go. It'll have some impact on you, but can you minimize the impact? And same thing is for the good news that you get to hear, you feel elated, then you observe saying, Are Baba, this is part of the trap. Don't get too driven by it. So that's how I actually look uh, within me to deal with uh, in the face of adversity and in the face of extreme joyful news and events and things like that which happens in our life.
Thank you so much for that, Anurag. In fact, on a lighter note, it just reminds me of an incident that had happened in my life. And I'm a practitioner of Buddhism, and the first class that I had gone for, I had with a lot of courage, put my hand up and said that yes, Gautam Buddha could do all this because he didn't have a spouse, he didn't have children, he didn't have a boss, he didn't have traffic, he didn't have auto rickshaw. How do you do it when there is so much of external stressors, right? And I think you've beautifully summarized how it is possible to have an undisturbed mind in the face of disturbance and adversity, because the peace actually is not outside, the peace is inside. I know it sounds like Instagram and it sounds like just that other quote that you heard the other day, but unfortunately, that is the reality.
Yeah, true, very true, very true. So there's a question says, does the definition of happiness vary from person to person? Yes, I completely agree, but I would want to apply only one, principle checklist to it. Is this happiness generated internally, or is it dependent upon some external circumstances?
Absolutely.
If
Because if
this
it,
you are able to sort out, then any definition of happiness is fine with me. Just see whether it is internal created or it is dependent on for some external reality or in external circumstances for you to feel good.
yeah, and
Um, that's my input to that
yeah,
part.
just to add to that, and it's so true, because the reality is that there is biodiversity. Everybody is different. Everyone's needs are different. Everyone's wants are different. But if you actually had to, you know, tie a thread to, to tie all humanity together, the reality is that if you had to define happiness through internal resources, the definition won't change person to person. It's only when the happiness is dependent upon external factors does the definition change. And external factors are always transient, right? Today in the morning, I might dream of going for a movie. But if there is suddenly a fire in my building, my dream just becomes how I can save my house. So I think, you know, your wants, depending on transient things,
Yeah.
not very far it can take you.
In fact, on this particular part, just a small, uh, anecdote which helps me to differentiate. Now, if I see a snake, I feel scared and I will feel threatened. And if a snake charmer sees a snake, he would see that as an opportunity. So
Absolutely.
it's not the snake which is making a difference, it's how we perceive what we are seeing. Which, if you see it as an opportunity, your body responds it accordingly. And if you perceive it as a threat, then your body responds accordingly. So it's all about training ourselves to observe within and see as to how the circumstances are, or what is our word view of
Absolutely.
how do we see the world around us. And if we train ourselves to accept the imperfections we are existing in our world around, and once we accept the imperfections, then they no longer result into complaint. As you had mentioned, we are stuck in complaints and wants. So I feel that if we start accepting the imperfections in and around us, including ourselves, then we move from complaint to opportunity. And once we understand that wants is an bottomless pit, so let us be aware of this fact, not that we don't want to want something, you want it. But then the principle of Gita comes in that, or Amitabh Bachchan say, जो अपने मन का हुआ बहुत अच्छा, और अगर मन का नहीं हुआ तो उससे और भी अच्छा. So that being the case, uh, if we are able to accept that reality of life,
Yeah.
then probably the misery or the suffering or the discomfort which we go through will come down. And the word view determines how we will release the chemicals inside us, because every time we perceive a threat, unhappy chemicals are released, and every time we perceive a joyful event, happy chemicals are released. So it's all about our perception and not what we see. So if we have to really live joyfully, then we'll have to improve our ability to perceive the world around us in a better and a more holistic manner, where we stop seeking perfections and needing perfections around us.
So there's an interesting question which says, Madam, happiness starts with money in today's world. Please clarify. And I think the fact that happiness starts with money is the biggest delusion that we are living in, right? Because firstly, there is no end to money. If you have a cycle, you want a bike. If you have a bike, you want a car. When you get a car, you want five cars. When you have five cars, you want an airplane, you want a yacht, and it keeps going on, right? So needs are never going to end. And if you connect money with happiness, then it's something which you are just setting yourself up for exhaustion and failure, because you'll never be able to satisfy your thing. And does happiness come can you equate it to just money? Well, if you have billions and billions and billions of dollars, but you suddenly get a doctor's report saying you're not going to live more than 5 days, what is that money going to make any difference in your life, and is it going to bring any happiness? So while I'm not saying that money is not important, yes, we cannot live on love and fresh air. We need basic amount of money. But I think where we need to start differentiating is between need and greed. The irony is we need something, we want something else. But the happiness actually comes in when we have the ability to say that, okay, I only need so much, I have it now, can I bring contentment, can I bring gratitude? Because I think this entire conversation around happiness will definitely be incomplete if we don't talk about what gratitude really does for you, right? Your glass can be half empty, or it can be half full. And it is all about perspectives. In fact, the company that we run called Happiest Places to Work, that is what we essentially believe. We believe that happiness is a skill, it's a perspective, right? And just by shifting your perspective, you can completely shift your reality. So I hope I have brought in some clarity in terms of what money really does.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. While money is a necessity, we should all have it, and have it in sufficient quantity so that our needs are taken care. But endless chase is futile, actually. So I have a question here from my colleague saying that, sir, can we define happiness? It occurs to different people in different ways. How to understand this? So, Shivaya, my input to you is that, uh, yes, it's all about how we view it. Different people are viewing happiness in a different way. And not only different people, for the same person. Today, what will give you happiness, tomorrow, the same thing will not give you happiness. So it's how you view that. You hear a joke, you will feel happy the first time. You hear it second time and third time, you will start feeling awful about it. So it's not the joke,
The
but how
first
you think
bite of
about
cheesecake is very tasty. The second bite is tasty. The third bite is tasty. The 45th bite, you're like, it's the most yucky thing. I don't want to eat it. So
it. Yeah, so that's the reality. It's the views. We are constantly, our views changing of how we look at it. So it's just that becoming mindful of how we look at the world, bringing awareness to our own self, is able to help us, respond to this situation. So, Namrata, it's been wonderful
Yes,
to.
I just want to end because there's a very interesting comment that Mr. Narayan Rao Vakamudi has put in, where he's saying that it is important to understand that if I'm not in a happy place within, I cannot make people around me happy, or learning and constantly work on. And I think that's so beautiful, because the reality is a naked man can't offer his shirt, right? And it is so important for you to be happy to create a happy environment around. And especially when we are talking about workplaces, happiness is contagious, it does flow. And if you want if you collectively want to be happy, every individual has to work towards creating happiness for themselves also.
True.
Thank you so much for that
In
comment.
fact, many of these colleagues who put in such powerful statements are all from Natural Remedies. So I am
Fantastic.
delighted to see their insights to this journey of happiness, and I'm really blessed to have such wonderful people in the organization. Uh, Thank you, Namrata, for being with us. It was a wonderful conversation with you and listening to you and hearing, and I hope our audience also enjoyed this interaction between us. Feel free anytime. Please post your question now or later. We will be happy to, provide our perspective to how we see it. And thank you so much. Thank you, Namrata.
Thank you, Anurag. It was a pleasure talking to you as always. Thank you so much.